If you're a church leader who's wondering how to get the best out of the volunteers you have, stay tuned because today I'm going to give you my top 3 tips for building a worship team for your smaller church. So before we dive right in, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every Wednesday. In fact, this is the first in a series on worship leadership. So if you don't want to miss next week's video, hit the subscribe button, even hit the bell. You'll be notified when it goes live. So I was the worship pastor for over 3.5 years at a church of about 120, including kids, on a good day. I'm sure anyone who's experienced this knows that it can be hard to achieve the dreams and visions you see in your head in real life. And in my experience, the best way to translate what's in here to what's out here in the real world is to build an amazing team around you. So here are my top 3 tips for building the best team for your church. Number 1, set clear expectations and follow them. One of the first things I did when I started this church was something I got from another pastor friend of mine. He said, write a manual. I called it a survival guide, and it was, this had some really basic information from the purpose of the ministry to the philosophy of worship, as well as some more practical things such as like how to join the worship team and what expectations were for rehearsals and know your parts by the time you get there, Sunday morning rehearsals, Sunday services, after service cleanup, even dress code and things like that. So really basic and practical information that puts everyone on the same page from the get-go. And if you've never seen one of these, I've actually put a link to the one that I wrote for this church below, and you'll be able to use that as a starting point. So set clear expectations, and don't forget the second part, follow them. It's just another way of letting people know that you're taking these expectations seriously, not just for them, but for yourself, and that you too are part of the team. And another kind of side benefit is that it helps you weed out people that aren't really as serious about joining. They're just like, oh yeah, I can dabble in music. It's not that hard. It's music. No, you want to set a higher standard than that, and so this will help you do that. So set clear expectations and follow them. Number 2, team building. Team building is so important. And by team building, I'm not talking about recruiting and building your team. I mean actually investing and building into the team. So one of the things that we would do as a worship team is that every 3 months or so, we try to get together for dinner. And so we called it family dinner. Actually, we called our worship family, or we called it a worship family, not a worship team, because I really wanted to get that emphasis on family. You'll hear a little bit more about that later. But so we get together for dinner once every 3 months. We meet at the church and share a meal. Sometimes I'd order in and we just kind of hang out. Other times we'd invite the families of our volunteers, and every family would bring a dish to share, and we'd have a potluck. We did that a couple times around Christmas and after Easter, just big events that everybody's been working so hard at. Let's celebrate the work we did and just have a night to hang out. I've heard of other churches that do things like go to conferences together and concerts. We tried that a couple times. It didn't work for us. But if that works for you, that's amazing. And again, these churches that I've heard of doing it, they're not just going to the conferences and just kind of taking it in as individuals. They're taking time outside of the sessions to talk about what they learned, invest in each other, pray over each other, kind of dream and share and really build into the vision that the leader, you potentially, have for the ministry. Another thing that we used to do that was amazing actually was the last rehearsal of every month. So we had rehearsal on Thursday nights. So the last Thursday of every month, we'd get together for a worship night, just us. It wasn't a worship night for the church, it was a worship night for the worship family. And everyone on the team was invited. And so when I say, the worship family, I don't just mean the band and the singers. Like our audio and visual people are equally as part of the ministry as anybody. And so everyone was invited, and we just get together to sing and pray and read scripture. We had some really beautiful moments of intimacy with God in these worship nights. And we also learned to be more vulnerable with each other, which helped us deepen in our relationship with each other and care for each other more as brothers and sisters in the Lord. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to build into your team building. And number 3, make sure everyone on the team has a purpose for being there. That's a mouthful, I know, but this one is crucial, especially for us small church leaders, because the other two, both large and small churches, can apply these. But for us who have limited numbers, limited resources, this one is important, and I'll tell you why. Like I said, I was a church of about 100 people. We had 14 people who were part of the worship ministry, including myself. And this church wasn't particularly artsy or musical. Like, we had a lot of accountants, a lot of school teachers, a lot of athletic and outdoorsy people, which is amazing, but just we didn't have a huge musical group to pick from. And there was one lady in particular when I got there who just wasn't a great singer. Like, she was fairly pitchy, and she was, fairly beginner on keys. But man, did she have a desire to learn and to grow in excellence in what she did. Like, and she would come with these amazing questions for every time that she was scheduled. And so, looking at it from just a musical perspective, you could say, like, yeah, maybe she's pitchy and she's not a good keyboardist. Is she really contributing on Sunday morning? But the question wasn't whether she was contributing on Sunday morning, because she was, her heart for the Lord was amazing as well. So she was contributing on Sunday in that sense. But during rehearsals, she was the first one to ask a question every week. And that in turn prompted other people to become more comfortable with asking questions. And her and her family moved on from our church. But the impact that she left to our worship family, from her freedom to ask questions and her desire to grow both as a keyboard player and as a singer, really raised the bar for expectations of excellence and growth. And her example said more than any words that I could ever say to the group. She just demonstrated it in her desire, and so she just brought a lot to our team. And that's just one example, right, of thinking outside the box and trying to bring people in who might not fit the mold of a perfect worship team member at any other church, that we at small churches have the advantage of bringing in and making a part of our team. So that's it. Those are my top 3 tips for building the best worship team for your small church. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd really love to hear what you're doing at your church, or if these ideas helped you and how you want to implement them. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and even hit the bell to be notified when next week's video goes live. And one last thing, I really believe that these tips aren't just for worship leaders or worship pastors. I think if you're a lead pastor looking to build a team around you, or even in other areas of life, if you're in business or an entrepreneur and are looking to build a team around you for your next project, I think these will help you out greatly. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.